What would you do if your own family forged your name on a $52,000 loan and expected you to thank them for it? My name is Amber Mitchell. I'm 29 years old, and until this past year, I thought I understood what family disappointment felt like. Being the overlooked daughter normal, getting excluded from family vacations, also normal, but nothing prepared me for the moment. I opened that envelope, plain beige, heavy in my hands, and found my sister Jessica's brand new Mercedes registered in my name. And worse, my forged signature was right there at the bottom of the loan agreement. Something inside me cracked open that day. A switch flipped, because that envelope wasn't just paper, it was proof. 10 years of subtle exploitation, guilt-tripping, and emotional blackmail had finally added up to something I couldn't ignore. I'd been the family's financial crutch for years, but this was theft. Let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up in Westchester County, New York, in a picturesque 5-bedroom colonial with a manicured lawn and a white picket reputation. My father, Richard Mitchell, was a high-rolling investment banker. My mother, Diana, orchestrated charity luncheons and exclusive PTA events like they were royal galas. From the outside, we were flawless. Inside, we were anything but. My parents believed in two things: appearances and Jessica. She was born when I was 4, and from that day forward, I became invisible. Jessica was the light of every room, the gifted child with big eyes, dramatic flair, and an uncanny ability to cry on cue. Me, I was the quiet one. Straight A's, color-coded binders, an after-school job by 16. But in our house, discipline wasn't admired, it was inconvenient. Where Jessica was called passionate, I was labeled cold. She got horseback riding lessons because she liked ponies. I had to maintain a 4.0 just to get piano lessons on a second-hand keyboard. At 16, Jessica unwrapped a brand new Audi in our driveway, complete with a bow. I got a used Honda and a lecture on practicality. Still, I kept grinding. I earned a full scholarship to Cornell, double majored in economics and business, and landed a Manhattan financial analyst role by 24. By 27, I had my own apartment, a healthy 401k, and most importantly, I was financially independent. But independence came at a cost. Family dinners became monthly ambushes. Can you help Jessica with her rent? Just until her refund check comes. Your dad's commission is delayed. Could you spot us for the property tax? Your mom's gala budget's tight. Would you mind donating? At first, it felt like love. We're a team, they'd say. We're just so proud of you. But over time, I realized every compliment had a dollar sign attached. They weren't proud. They were counting. 3 years ago, I paid off Jessica's $12,000 credit card debt after she sobbed on the phone, promising she'd change. 6 months later, she maxed it out again, this time on a luxury trip to Bali. When I confronted her, my mom shook her head and said, "Amber, she just experiences life differently. You're so lucky to be stable. Lucky." That word echoed in my head for months. Last year, I paid off their property taxes $18,000. The same month, they bought a vacation home in the Hamptons. They didn't see it as betrayal. To them, it was just expected. I was the strong one, the successful one, which in Mitchell family code meant the one we can keep taking from. Still, a part of me wanted their approval so badly. I thought if I just tried a little harder, they'd finally see me. So this past October, I organized a weekend in Manhattan, my treat. I booked a suite at a boutique hotel, scored tickets to a Broadway show Jessica loved, and made dinner reservations at a restaurant that required a 3-month wait list. The weekend was fine on the surface, but my mother spent most of it critiquing my apartment's dark cabinetry and limited space, and Jessica hijacked every conversation with tales of her latest dating disasters. Then came December. The month everything changed. It started with a post. I was scrolling through Instagram on my lunch break when I saw it my cousin Taylor beaming in front of a Christmas tree surrounded by my entire family. The caption, "Early Mitchell Family Christmas. So blessed to have everyone together. Everyone. Except me." I blinked, stared, scrolled. There was my dad carving turkey, my mom arranging presents, Jessica laughing with our aunts, Our grandparents, our cousins, even people I didn't recognize. They were all there. No text, no invite, nothing. I called my mom, hands shaking. "Amber, sweetheart," she answered, her voice sugary. "How are you? Why wasn't I invited to Christmas?" A pause, then, "Oh, darling, it was very last minute. Jessica said you had plans. I hadn't said any such thing." When I told her that, she sighed dramatically. "Please don't make this a thing. Jessica's been feeling overshadowed lately. We didn't want any tension. You understand, don't you? You've always been our strong one." That phrase again. I hung up feeling numb. That night, Jessica texted, "Sorry you missed the party. It was so fun. BTW, can you help me pick out Mom's gift? I'm thinking jewelry. Need your dollar input, Loel? No apology, no remorse. Just another ask draped in faux sisterly charm." And I'd had enough. I called my best friend Leah and accepted her long-standing invitation to spend the holidays with her family instead. For the first time in years, I felt seen, welcomed, genuinely wanted. We baked cookies, decorated their tree. I brought gifts, and not one person asked me for money. When Leah's dad raised his glass and toasted to family, both born and chosen, I teared up. For once, I wasn't the bank. I was a guest, a person. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Because 3 weeks later, an envelope arrived at my door, and inside was a storm I never saw coming. It was a Thursday evening when I came home to find it just a plain manila envelope in my mailbox. No note, no warning, just my name in my mother's perfect cursive across the front. I remember holding it on the elevator ride up, my stomach twisting. Some instinct told me this wasn't a thank you card, and I was right. Inside was an invoice from Luxury Motors of Westchester, $52,000. The purchase, a brand new Mercedes GLE coupe. The buyer, Jessica Mitchell. The co-signer, me, Amber Mitchell. My hands began to shake. I flipped through the packet. Loan documents, insurance forms, extended warranty paperwork, all with my name, my information, and a signature that looked like mine but wasn't. Then tucked at the bottom of the stack, a handwritten note from Jessica, thanks for helping with the new car. The old one was totaled and I needed something reliable. Mom and Dad said you'd understand since you're doing so well. Payment details attached. First one's due, February 1st. Love you, sis, XOXO. I stood there in my doorway, still holding my keys, my breath shallow. The room spun. My mouth went dry. Was this some kind of sick joke? I called my parents immediately. My father picked up. "Did you get the paperwork?" he asked, like we were discussing a magazine subscription. "Dad, I never signed this. This is fraud." There was a pause. Then that condescending tone I knew all too well. "Oh, Amber, don't be dramatic. We knew you'd want to help Jessica. She's had such a rough time lately." "A rough time," I said, nearly yelling. "She was driving drunk and crashed her last car. That's not trauma, that's recklessness." "She has a job interview next week," he said weakly. "The Mercedes makes a good impression." I almost laughed. "She doesn't even have the job yet." "You make enough," he snapped. "It's not like you can't afford the payments." I felt the floor drop out from under me. The gall. The complete lack of remorse. They didn't even ask, they decided for me. Used my name, forged my signature, and expected me to play along. "It's illegal," I whispered. "You're being selfish," he said flatly, "after everything we've done for you." I hung up. The text started immediately after. "Jessica, Dad said you're being difficult about the car, Jessica. You don't even drive a Mercedes. Why do you care, Jessica? If you don't help me, I'm stranded. So typical of you." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I poured a glass of wine and sat down, forcing myself to breathe. I needed to think, strategize, understand the full scope of what had just happened. First, I logged into my bank account to check for any other surprises, and that's when I found it. A security alert from the day before. Someone had tried to access my main savings account, the one with my emergency fund, and my down payment savings. The attempt had triggered two-factor authentication. The account was frozen. Thank God. But the login attempt had come from a recognized device, my old laptop. the one I'd wiped and given to my parents last year. This wasn't just a forged signature. This was an attempted financial takeover. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I needed time. I needed legal advice. I called Leah, who immediately connected me with Natalie Hoffman, a family law attorney she trusted. Natalie's office was in a cozy brownstone in Midtown Darkwood, fresh coffee and a quiet that helped me stop shaking. She listened intently as I laid it all out: the car loan, the forged signature, the attempted account access. After reading the documents, she leaned back in her chair and removed her glasses. "This is fraud," she said simply. "Textbook." I nodded, gripping my coffee like a lifeline. "You have options," she continued. "You can press criminal charges. You can report it to the bank and dealership as fraud. Or you can pay for a car you never agreed to buy." The words hit hard. "But it's my mother," I said half-heartedly. "And Jessica." Natalie didn't flinch. "I understand the emotional side, but ask yourself this. What kind of relationship do you have with people who commit fraud against you and expect gratitude in return?" I didn't have an answer. Later that night, I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls, 36 texts. My father had left a voicemail, his voice low and threatening. "If you pursue this fraud nonsense, consider yourself cut off from this family, permanently." My mother wrote, "Jessica is heartbroken. You've always been jealous of her. She's planning to thank you publicly on Instagram. Don't embarrass her by making a scene." I nearly dropped my phone. They weren't worried about legality or consequences. They were worried about appearances. My inbox filled with messages from relatives. Cousins I hadn't seen in years weighed in. "It's just a misunderstanding," they said. "You're being cold. Think about family." Uncle Robert, my father's brother and business partner, left me a voicemail suggesting I was overly legalistic and encouraging me to keep things quiet. The pressure campaign was on, and it only made me more certain. I forwarded everything to Natalie. By the next morning, she had a plan, gather documentation, alert the bank and dealership, and lock down every financial account I owned. I contacted my financial advisor, who confirmed the worst: someone had recently applied for a credit card in my name at a luxury furniture store. It had been denied, thankfully, due to a fraud flag. But the pattern was clear. Jessica wasn't just after the car. She was building a new life on my name. And they all thought I'd let her. Not this time. That night, I stared at the ceiling in my apartment, realizing something painfully simple. This wasn't love. This wasn't family. It was survival, and I had just become their favorite target. 2 days after I retained Natalie, I got the summons. Not a legal one, a family one. Amber Elizabeth Mitchell. My mother's voice rang through the phone, laced with that familiar condescension. "We need to discuss this car situation like adults. Your father and I are hosting dinner tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Jessica will be there." It wasn't a question. It wasn't even a request. It was a command. And for most of my life, I would have obeyed without blinking. Hoping, always hoping, that if I just played along one more time, they'd finally treat me with respect. But not anymore. This time I said yes, for a very different reason. I wasn't coming to make peace. I was coming to make it clear that the game was over. The next evening, I pulled up to my parents' pristine Colonial. Jessica's new Mercedes was parked front and center in the driveway, a twisted trophy on display. My parents' own vehicles, as usual, were tucked discreetly in the garage. Image was everything. My mother greeted me at the door with a stiff smile and a cold air kiss. Finally ready to be reasonable, she said, leading me to the dining room like I was a naughty child being escorted to detention. Jessica was already there, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up. My father stood by the fireplace, swirling a tumbler of scotch like some kind of courtroom judge. "Sit down, Amber," he said, gesturing across from Jessica. "Let's talk like civilized people." The table was set with beef stroganoff, my supposed favorite. In reality, I hated it. Always had. It was Jessica's favorite. They hadn't even remembered that detail. "As your mother serves," my father began, "I want to express how disappointed we are in how you've handled this situation. Threatening fraud charges. That's not how this family operates. I didn't even blink. How does our family operate? Dad, by forging signatures, draining savings accounts, excluding me from holidays, and then expecting me to pay for Jessica's lifestyle. Jessica slammed her fork down. Oh my God, are you still whining about Christmas? It wasn't even a real party. It was the entire extended family. Everyone except me, I said, keeping my voice even. Because you're judgmental, she snapped. You make people uncomfortable with your perfect job and your perfect apartment and your constant criticism. My mother reached over, patting her arm like she was a Victorian debutante having a fainting spell. Amber, you know your sister is sensitive. You've always been jealous of her. And frankly, for a woman your age, it's unbecoming. There it was. The same tired script, Jessica the victim, Amber the villain, and facts irrelevant. I place my napkin beside my untouched plate. I'm not paying for the car. 3 sets of eyes snapped to me. What you did, I continued, was illegal. I've frozen every account you could access. I've documented all attempted fraud. And I've spoken to a lawyer. My father's expression darkened. After everything we've done for you. What have you done for me? I interrupted. Because I worked for my scholarships. I paid my student loans. I built my career on my own. Meanwhile, you've bailed out Jessica through every failed school, every maxed out card, and now this. We gave you a home, my mother hissed. We gave you everything. No, I said, standing now. You gave me conditional love and a running tab. Jessica shot up too, knocking over her chair in the process. You think you're so much better than us, newsflash Amber. Nobody likes you. Even your boyfriend left because you're cold and calculating. Ah, there it was, the knife. What she didn't know. That same ex-boyfriend had been sleeping with Jessica while we were still together. I had kept that fact to myself out of shame. But now it just confirmed what I already knew. These weren't just people who took from me. They didn't even like me. And yet they still expected me to bankroll their lives. If you don't pay for the car, my father said, voice low and deliberate, you are no longer part of this family. No holidays, no inheritance, no connection to the Mitchell name. A few years ago, that threat would have gutted me. Now it felt like a gift. You're asking me to choose between a $52,000 loan I never agreed to and a family that commits fraud against me, disrespects me, and manipulates me. I stared at each of them. That's not actually a difficult choice. I walked to the front door. My mother called after me, Jessica needs that car. What is she supposed to do now? I turned one last time. The same thing I did when I needed transportation. Buy something she can actually afford. And then I walked out. No dramatic music, no parting hug, just silence. But inside me, something seismic had shifted. On the drive home, my hands trembled on the steering wheel, not from fear, but from adrenaline, from release, from finally saying everything I had held in for years. And once I did, I didn't feel empty. I felt free. When I got home after the dinner, I expected to feel shattered. Instead, I felt light. It was like I had finally stopped dragging a dead weight behind me, one I'd been carrying for years without even realizing it. But freedom from a toxic family doesn't come without consequences, and mine arrived faster than I imagined. Less than 24 hours later, my phone began vibrating nonstop. Text after text, call after call. The Mitchell spin machine was in full motion. Jessica left a voicemail sobbing so hard it sounded performative. They took my car, Amber. I'm stranded at the mall. Do you even care what you've done to me? I didn't answer. I blocked her number. Then came the calls from my parents. My father's voice, normally composed and smug, was laced with fury. You are ungrateful, vindictive. Your mother hasn't stopped crying. Jessica is devastated. You've destroyed this family. I blocked him, too. Then the extended family weighed in people I hadn't heard from in months. A cousin I hadn't spoken to since high school texted, "Heard you're tearing the family apart over a misunderstanding. Is it true?" A misunderstanding. My identity was stolen, my finances nearly compromised. and the word they chose was misunderstanding. That's when I realized they weren't just minimizing what happened. They were rewriting it, and they were trying to make me the villain. Jessica, of course, went public. She posted a crying video on Instagram, all mascara-streaked cheeks and quivering lips, standing in front of an empty parking spot. When the people who are supposed to love you most betray you and take away the one thing you need to start fresh, all because they can't stand to see you happy. Toxic family. Ichan, stay strong. Sisters should support each other. Thousands of likes, dozens of comments, support from people who didn't know the truth and didn't care. And then it got worse. My mother began calling my friends, telling them I was having a mental health crisis, that I was paranoid about finances and lashing out at people who love her. She even called my boss. Sandra pulled me into a meeting that Friday, her expression unreadable. "I got a call from your father," she said calmly. He was concerned, said you might be unstable, that you've been dealing with financial confusion and might not be in the best state of mind for handling client funds. My heart stopped. I had worked my entire adult life to build my reputation in the industry, my integrity, my reliability, my numbers. Now they were trying to poison the one thing they couldn't take directly, my career. "I'm so sorry," I told Sandra. "My family committed financial fraud against me. I've taken legal steps, and now they're retaliating." She stared at me for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "I believe you." That one sentence, those 3 words, undid the knot in my chest. "You've always been precise, composed, accountable," she continued. "I've dealt with high-level PR disasters. This is textbook manipulation. Take time if you need it, but don't let them make you question your sanity." I walked out of that office shaken but steadier. I knew what I had to do next. That evening, I sat down with Marcus, my financial advisor, and laid out everything. Every call, every account, every suspicion. "I think this was just the beginning," I told him. "They're trying to take over more than just a car loan." Marcus agreed. We began what he called a full financial firewall. New bank accounts, different institutions, locked credit reports, updated beneficiaries, new passwords, new security questions, new everything. Then came the credit report. And what I found sent a fresh chill down my spine. Just 2 days after Jessica's car was purchased, someone had applied for a high-limit credit card at a luxury furniture store using my name. It had been denied, thankfully, because I had placed a fraud alert the day after the car documents arrived. But the timing, the confidence. This wasn't a one-off betrayal, it was a blueprint. They had planned to slowly siphon more, one loan at a time, one application at a time, and they thought I'd never notice, or worse, that I'd be too ashamed to stop them. Then Jessica posted something new, a photo of herself in front of the Mercedes before it was repossessed with the caption, "Some people would rather see you suffer than watch you shine, even family, especially family." Survivor, stay strong, blocked and blessed. The comment section was nauseating. Cousin Taylor, yes, the one who had exposed the Christmas gathering, wrote, "Creating boundaries is self-care. Proud of you, Jess." Aunt Michelle. "You don't need negativity in your life. Let the haters hate." I stared at the screen. The sheer audacity, the alternate universe they were building around themselves, where I was the toxic one. That night, the final nail landed. A text from Jessica. Sloppy, spiteful, likely drunk. "You think better than one, but just a lonely beach, no one who loves you. Mom and Dad only put up with you for money. We all laugh or are you. Enjoy your empty apartment while I enjoy my new life." There it was, stripped of spin. No hashtags, no pity, just raw, vile honesty. And it didn't destroy me. It freed me, because finally I stopped questioning whether I was overreacting. I wasn't. I was surviving. The next morning, I made the call to Natalie. "I'm ready," I said, "to report the fraud. Yes, all of it." Her voice was calm but firm. "Are you sure this isn't a step you can walk back?" "I'm sure." They left me no choice. That same afternoon, I called the bank that financed Jessica's car. "My name is Amber Mitchell," I said, steady as stone, "and I need to report a forged signature on a $52,000 auto loan." The rep transferred me to a fraud manager named Robert. He was surprisingly kind, walking me through the documentation, taking down the timeline, promising an internal review. "We'll investigate and likely remove the loan from your credit and financial record," he said. And then, "The vehicle will be repossessed unless the other party can qualify on their own." They couldn't. I knew they couldn't. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel guilty about that. I felt safe, because I had finally chosen myself. The bank moved faster than I expected. Just 3 days after I reported the fraud, I got the call. "Ms. Mitchell Robert from the fraud department said our investigation is complete. Your signature was indeed forged. We've removed the loan from your credit report and you are no longer financially responsible." I exhaled slowly, the weight of years beginning to lift. "And the vehicle?" I asked. "The repossession agent has been assigned. It could happen today or tomorrow. We don't provide specifics for security reasons." "Understood." I thanked him and hung up. The silence in my apartment buzzed with adrenaline. I knew what was coming next, and sure enough, less than 2 hours later, my phone lit up like a firework finale. First came the voicemails. Jessica shrieking, "They took my car, you ruined my life." I was in the mall parking lot and it just gone Amber. Then the texts. I had job interviews lined up. "You're evil. Everyone hates you. Even Leah don't think she actually cares about you. You're so pathetic reporting your own family." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I just opened my phone's settings and blocked her number again, this time for good. Then my parents unleashed their fury. My father left a voicemail so venomous I deleted it before it finished playing. My mother's messages were melodramatic essays filled with words like betrayal, disgrace, and abandonment. I blocked them too. I didn't even hesitate when my cousin Taylor texted trying to guilt-trip me with, "Jessica's hurting Amber. She's heartbroken. Don't you think you've made your point?" Actually, I hadn't. Not even close. Because while Jessica was throwing tantrums on social media, claiming her car had been stolen by haters, I was sitting in Natalie's office going over the next steps. Because the bank wasn't the only one investigating. My lawyer had received a call from their lawyer. They were scared. Natalie looked up from her notes, barely hiding her amusement. "They're floating vague offers of reconciliation and compensation," she said. "Basically, if you agree to withdraw the fraud claim, they'll pay your legal fees and call it even." I blinked. That's it, she said. "Because they know what's next. The dealership could press criminal charges, and forged signatures are felonies even if committed by your mother." My chest tightened. I didn't want my mother to go to prison, not out of forgiveness, but because I knew if she became a martyr, Jessica would never shut up about it. The narrative would shift again. I didn't want more drama. I wanted closure. "What do you suggest?" I asked. "If your goal is peace and protection, we draft a legal settlement. Full admission of wrongdoing, payment of all your legal fees, and legally binding agreements that they'll never access your finances again. Non-contact orders included." I nodded, slowly. Then, with more certainty, "That's what I want." The settlement took 2 weeks. During that time, Jessica escalated. She used friends' phones to text me, "You think you've won, you've lost everything. Enjoy your empty life." She blasted Instagram with veiled attacks about jealous sisters and cold-hearted manipulators. She even posted a video sobbing next to a rental Toyota Corolla saying, "This is what my family reduced me to." The comments poured in. Heartbreaking. "Amber is a monster. Shame on that sister." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because the dealership had the documents. The bank had confirmed fraud. And Natalie had everything she needed to seal the agreement. 2 weeks later, I received the final signed settlement package. They admitted to the forgery, paid all my legal fees, signed a non-contact clause that made future attempts to access my financial life a legal liability. It was done. I closed the file, leaned back in my chair, and exhaled. And for the first time in my adult life, no one in my family could touch me. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. It was Jessica. You think you've won, but you've lost everything. We're all better off without you. I stared at the screen and smiled, because in her attempt to wound me, she told me the truth. Yes, I had lost something. I lost the illusion that these people had ever truly loved me, and what I gained was everything they could never offer: peace, autonomy, dignity. I called Leah that night. I did it, I told her. It's over. Her response came instantly. I'm so proud of you. Want to come over? Dad made lasagna. And just like that, I remembered what family was supposed to feel like. Warm, safe, uncomplicated, real. That Christmas, the air felt different. Not just the weather, though Denver had wrapped itself in thick, quiet snow, but something inside me. A stillness I hadn't known in years, a clarity that came not from forgiveness, but from finally choosing myself. I spent the morning in fuzzy socks sipping coffee by the window of my apartment. No rush, no expectations, no guilt-tripped invitation from my mother to come early and help Jessica feel included. No texts pressuring me to bring wine gifts or excuses. Just silence, just peace. At noon, Leah picked me up. Her car was older than Jessica's stolen Mercedes, but warm, reliable, hers. When we pulled into her family's driveway, her dad was already outside in an apron waving a spatula like a flag. There she is, he grinned. Amber, we kept the corner piece of lasagna for you. I couldn't help it. I laughed. And for the next few hours, I was just present. Not the responsible one, not the ATM sister, not even the disappointment. Just Amber. I helped Leah's niece unwrap crayons. I passed her mom the cinnamon rolls. I even beat her cousin Sam at Scrabble. The house was loud, messy, alive, real. And as we gathered around for dessert, Leah handed me a small, square box. I looked up confused. We said no gifts, I reminded her. She just shrugged, smiling. This one's different. Inside was a keychain. At first I didn't get it, just a simple metal tag with etched lettering. But when I read the words, my throat tightened. You're not hard to love. They were just too selfish to try. I looked at her, blinking back sudden tears. She leaned closer. I saw it online months ago and thought of you. But now I think you believe it too. And for the first time in my life, I did. Because for years, I had twisted myself into shapes to earn scraps of affection from people who only knew how to take. I had stayed quiet to keep peace, stayed generous to prove worth, stayed loyal to blood that didn't bleed for me. But not anymore. Not now. Later that week, I got one last email from Jessica. Not an apology, of course not. Just a pathetic attempt to twist the narrative again. Hope you're proud. Mom's been crying for days. You've ruined the family. No one will speak to you again. I didn't reply. Instead, I took the keychain off my coffee table and looped it onto my house keys. It clinked softly like a reminder, like armor. That New Year's, I made one resolution to never again betray myself in order to keep someone else comfortable. Not for family, not for tradition, not for guilt dressed up as love. It's been nearly a year now. Jessica lost the car, then the lease, then finally the boyfriend who couldn't deal with all the drama. Last I heard, she was couch surfing between friends and cutting passive-aggressive videos about toxic sisters and cancel culture. My parents. They tried to rope extended relatives into the pity party, but most saw through it. My Aunt Marianne called me privately to say it's about time someone told them no. I smiled at that, because telling them no wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And somewhere along the way, that no became a yes to everything I'd been missing. Yes to boundaries, yes to peace. Yes to people who meet me with respect, not expectation. Yes to a life that feels like mine. And every now and then I pass by a silver Mercedes on the road and feel a flicker of something. Not rage, not grief, just gratitude. Because that car, the one they tried to saddle me with, manipulate me through and break me over, was the final straw that built the bridge to my freedom. Sometimes it takes losing a family to finally find yourself. And I did.